Yeah,
so
that's
Rob,
cool.
thanks so much for joining us. So tell us a little about yourself and why are you so interested in sleep?
So I'm Rob. I'm a registered nutritionist by trade. I'm not a sleep expert, and I'm not a psychologist around sleep. It's just that I'm somebody that slept really badly, and I still, from time to time, I still don't get a lot of sleep now. So I was just interested in writing a book that just put all the little bits together. So the sleep hygiene elements, which I think should be the first port of call if you're not sleeping. Obviously, some people have a lot more difficulty, and we can talk a bit about how cancer can maybe stop you from sleeping. And there are interventions that might need more assistance from a qualified person. But I think I just wanted to put all the basics into a book for all the stuff that I'd learned along the way and the stuff that I'd read about, the experts I'd spoken to, and I just thought it just interests me. And I got more interested when I found out, why we need sleep and what happens to you when you don't get enough sleep. Because I just used to take it for granted, if I don't get sleep, I feel a bit tired. But actually, it's quite an important issue, and it's really important to our health. So it's something that needs to be addressed.
Fantastic. It's so important, sleep. I know that I feel particularly rough if I don't have enough sleep. But why do we sleep? Why do we need sleep?
Well, sleep is there's a lot going on when you sleep. It's really funny because when I work with my nutrition hat on, I love it when people say, oh, I shouldn't eat too close to bed because everything will get stored as fat. But when you're asleep, you are using up so much energy because the body's got so much to do. Yeah, the body's got a lot to do. It's your brain is processing information and memories. You've got protein synthesis being replenished to help to cure the damage that's done from wear and tear in the day. You've got red blood cells, immune cells are being produced. So there's a lot going on when we're asleep. So it's a really important time.
That.
Lesson for you there. Yeah.
And Rob, what is sleep? What's happening to our body?
Sleep, it works in a cycle, sleep. So we're governed by our circadian rhythm, and that's sort of hardwired into us. So that's the same for everybody. So this is the reason why 9 o'clock-ish, you might start to feel a little bit sleepy because that part of your circadian rhythm is triggering the release of melatonin, which is the sleep hormone. And around and a certain time in the morning is when the body stops producing melatonin, starts producing stress hormones like cortisol to sort of get you up. And then during the day, this circadian rhythm is triggering all these responses that make up how we are awake and how we are asleep. So, and sleep works in 3 different stages. So we've got light sleep, then we've got a short period of deep sleep, and then we've got this thing called REM sleep, which is when your brain is quite alert. So this is the time when you also dream. And through the night, there are 90-minute cycles that include these different stages of sleep, and they occur all through the night till you wake up. So if you're thinking about how much sleep you need, well, most people get about 7 hours, but we're kind of told we should be getting about 8. Some people need less, and some people survive perfectly well on less. Some people need more, but the average, what they say is about 8 hours.
Okay.
I was sleeping for about 4 a night at one point, which was quite horrific.
It's painful, isn't it? I know that feeling. And can you catch up on sleep?
Do you know what? The next day, if you haven't slept, then I'd say there's nothing wrong with having a quick nap to sort of get rid of that fatigue, that horrible tiredness and fatigue thing that you get. And you don't want to sleep for too long, because if you go into a deep sleep, you're going to get that horrible sleep inertia feeling when you wake up, and it's quite hard to get yourself. I mean, I wake up in a seriously bad mood if I nap for too long. Yeah. So, but I think if you think that you can lie in bed all weekend because you're catching up on your sleep, I don't think that's the best way to go, especially if you're struggling with sleep. What you need to do is get that pattern of sleep back in check, going to bed the same time every night, waking up the same time every morning. If you can do that and develop a healthy pattern, you're going to have a really good sleep. Lying in bed all weekend is not going to help you with that, and it's going to make you feel really groggy.
It does make you pretty rough if you stay in bed. I find when I sleep and then I wake up and then I try and go back to sleep, I feel awful after I've woken from that short sleep.
Yeah, I would say once you're up,
the snooze button.
Don't hit the snooze button.
It's awful.
Sometimes it's nice, isn't it? I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, you have to do this all the time. Sometimes it's lovely just to fall back to sleep, but I definitely say it for the weekend, because you do wake up feeling a bit groggy. But I think it's really important that, again, once you're up, you're up. And if it happens to be that you got up at 6 and you normally get up at 7, well, just get up. I mean, there's no point trying to fall back to sleep. My other half hits the snooze button every 10 minutes and it drives me mad. And it's not, yeah. And it's that really annoying alarm on the iPhone. There's this one alarm.
Really horrid, isn't it?
Yeah. So I would say get up, get yourself refreshed, ready for the day. Just don't lie around in bed. It's not going to make you feel great.
So if you don't have sleep, it's not good for your health. That's what we're talking about, right? And what impact does lack of sleep actually have on us?
So I guess to start with, on a basic level, you're going to feel tired, right? And that can affect, and the odd night is fine, you can get over that. But if it's prolonged sleep deprivation, then it can really take its effect on your ability to concentrate, your attention span, your creativity. If you're trying to work, I have quite a job where I have to be quite creative with writing and nutrition interventions. And if I'm really tired, it's really hard to come up with that and do my job properly. Insight learning, decision making, and then emotions, you know, it can really affect your mood, and that can affect your relationships that you have with the people around you. I mean, that's that side of things. But there's a lot of research now that's coming out that says, you know, if you don't get a lot of sleep, it can increase inflammation in the body. It can increase your risk of heart disease, maybe diabetes. There's studies linking it to being overweight.
I've read those. They're really quite interesting, aren't they?
It is interesting. I mean, it doesn't mean, you know, it's research. It doesn't mean you are going to put on weight or you are going to get heart disease if you don't sleep. It's just that there is a research showing an association, and that's quite interesting.
I mean, there's so much. The world of sleep is absolutely fascinating. I love the way in your book you use the acronym BED. Did you know that when the small letters of BED are put together, they look like a bed?
I never knew that.
I discovered that the other day. I mean, what more do you need to know?
I'm really curious now. I think you've got too much time on your hands.
I actually read it. So
yeah, that's really cute.
So what I want, so obviously they stand for?
Behaviour, environment and diet. And these, I think, are I just tried to categorise sleep hygiene into 3 different things that you could focus on. And my whole thing is about creating a sleep ritual. So find out what works for you, because the thing is, a lot of us say we can't sleep, but a lot of us do absolutely nothing about it. And it's quite hard to get motivated because you have to do this stuff at night, right?
Yeah.
And you're tired and you just can't be bothered. So
chuck it on the floor. Chuck everything on the floor and just go into bed, right?
That's what I used to do. And we can come to that later. But yeah, I think it's really important to form your own sleep ritual that's personal to you. And we can talk a bit about this because that also relates to things like if you're spending a lot of time in hospital, if you're sick, you know, you can take some
words.
Sorry, I will come back to it, but you can take some of these things with you, you know, these slight hygiene habits, you can take them with you to make it a much more pleasant experience and more familiar in your surroundings. But I mean, we can talk through there's lots of different elements to the behaviour, environment and diet, but I think they might just naturally come into other stuff we're going to talk about. So
well, I think, you know, this time is shit, isn't it? Sorry, it's a really hard time for everyone, let alone people living with cancer, right?
Absolutely.
So they've had to put up with being diagnosed as a young adult. They've had to put up with shielding. Most of you guys have put up with shielding and the fear and anxiety, being isolated from friends, fear of recurrence, and then also the side effects of cancer and chronic fatigue and all those things that, I mean, it's a huge package of. So, I mean, I know my anxiety has been really high in this time, but people diagnosed with cancer. So let's start at the beginning. You've just been diagnosed with cancer. Your whole world has turned upside down. The effect it's going to have on your sleep because of the anxiety, right? It's going to be huge.
Yeah.
So what can you do with this anxiety that's just absolutely churning?
Well, I think it's there's lots of things you can do. And I think it's, you know, I don't want to sound really patronising and say, oh, you know, just just chill out. But, you know, there are lots of methods that you can try and use. So, and I think you need to get the support of your family and friends around you to also help you with this, to help ease your anxiety. There's ways, you know, getting together with family and friends, talking things through. There may be things, you know, that they can do to help you. Some sort of counselling can help you get your head around what's going on. I think there are lots of techniques that can help you to relax. So think about breathing techniques. Think about meditation, aromatherapy, even just reading a book, anything just to try, whatever it is for you that helps float your boat and just tries to chill you out. And this may be something you want to do a little after the initial shock and when you're not quite so highly anxious. And these things are, you can follow these techniques that you learn around anxiety. You can follow them with you to help you to sleep. I mean, if you get up through the night and you find that breathing helps, and there's some, you know, muscle exercises you can do in bed to sort of relax your body and your mind, you can carry those through. You can do them any time of day, actually. The other thing is just, you know, I know we're in lockdown, a lot of people are shielding, but if it's at all possible, maybe when it's quiet outside and you've got a park close or something, try and get out as well, because it can make you really anxious just being stuck indoors. So yeah, and that, you know, not getting out as well, that can lead to maybe feeling quite depressed and low in mood. So I think it's really important that, you know, you get out, or you at least try and open all the windows in your house, get a load of fresh air in, and just try and take a few deep breaths and just see if that can help settle your mind a little bit. And
what about you wake in the middle of the night? You've got all these thoughts racing around your head. What can you do with those?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. So I make sure before I go to bed that I write down a to-do list for the next day, and I also just write down anything that's sort of driving me mad that I need to deal with. So I think it's really good to download your thoughts before you go to bed, and if you get up at night, you can do the same thing. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. You're lying there, you don't want to write things down. I would definitely recommend that you get up. Find a quiet space, you know, apply some of these techniques that you might have learned, sleep hygiene techniques, ways that help you to relax. Maybe think about, you know, herbal teas that have got things like valerian and lemon balm, lavender, those kind of things, just to help you relax. And I always say don't switch on the TV because of the blue light, but you know what, if that's what you need to do is put a box set on to help you relax, then do it, but try and keep the screen dimmed so it's not so bright. You know, do whatever you can, but don't lie in bed, because actually one of the other treatments for insomnia that people use is around stimulus control. And we start to associate bed with not sleeping and become quite a mental thing, a mental block. So part of that treatment, CBD treatment, a type of CBD treatment, is to get up and break that association with going to bed and not sleeping. So I think it's really important to step away, find ways to relax, do whatever works for you. You know, it might be that you wake up in pain as well. So, you know, that's another thing that you might need to address. And
it's finding the ways that work for you. I think that's so important, because so many people think that you should be doing the same thing, and we're all individual, right? So I don't know about you, but I know that some of the things, for instance, having a valerian tea keeps me wide awake. It's really
really? That's interesting.
So the nighttime sleepy teas cause me completely through the roof.
It also stinks of socks, like smelly socks, doesn't it, valerian? It's really gross.
And you leave it by your bedside. It's not great.
Yeah.
So, Rob, what about what I can do in my bedroom to calm, like in terms of what the environment?
Yeah, I'm really big on this one. Yeah, I'm really big on this one. And actually, this is the one thing I did. And it sounds so basic. When you say it to people, they're like, yeah. I mean, you know, you're teaching us to suck eggs. But addressing my bedroom was like the biggest thing I could do. I used to live with so much mess. Everything was on the bed. Like you said earlier, I'd chuck it off to go to bed. Clothes everywhere. You know, it was just a mess. But now I really try and keep it completely spotlessly clean. There's nothing under the bed. I've just got my bedside tables. I know that everything in my wardrobe is clear. I keep the room really cool. To the annoyance of my other half, I keep the window open all year round, even when it's freezing cold.
Why?
I love it, just snuggling up. It's really important that your room is really dark. You might need to change your mattress. Is that an issue? And that's stopping you from sleeping. You know, keep the lights nice and low. I wash my bedding twice a week because I'm just obsessed and I just get the best sleep. I know not everybody wants to do that.
You know, they did a research thing on stylists and they asked women how often they wash their sheets. What do you reckon?
I don't know. I'm really hoping you're going to say every week, but it's going to be like every month or something, isn't it?
6 weeks. 6 weeks.
What? No, that doesn't work for me. I get the best sleep when I've washed the bedding. I use loads of comfort. And then I iron my bedding because I have to have iron bedding.
So nice, isn't it?
It's like a ritual, you know. I have to have that to help me to sleep. But I think what I'm trying to say, you know, burn some candles, get those nice smells going, because you want to walk into that room, which should be just for sleep, maybe other things if you're lucky. So, but you want to, but you want to walk into that room and feel really like you just want to get into bed. It's cool. It smells lovely. You know, like when you go to a hotel room, you've just got that. Oh, I just want to get into bed. That's what you want to recreate. Not walk in and go, God, there's clothes everywhere. My laundry basket's overflowing. There's a plate with some old food on it that I haven't taken out of my room. You know, just pay some real attention to it.
And you matter, right? It's that sense of self-care and soothing and all of that.
That's a really good point. It is about self-care because it's about respecting yourself and just feeling like you're doing something good for yourself.
I'm just going to go and tidy my room. See you in a bit.
Yeah.
So this is, I mean, okay, so this person's just been diagnosed. They're about to start treatment. They're going into hospital and they're having to stay overnight. We know that the lights in hospital are not conducive to sleep.
No.
It's not a restful place. We know that you're prodded and poked at every minute. And so what things can you do to help that environment? I mean, it won't change, will it? You can't ask them to turn the lights off because it's a bit like the plane, isn't it? In some senses, everyone else is reading and you just want to sleep. Yeah. But in hospital, the noise is acute. There's beeping of machines, all of that.
Yeah, there really is. So, I mean, I would say try and take something in with you that's familiar to start with, because it's quite scary having to stay the night at hospital. And whatever age you are, I just don't think it's a very nice experience. Yeah. So whether that means to the annoyance or the not pleasure of other people, you know, I might take a sleep spray in and just spray it on my pillow so it just smells, at least it smells nice and it's fresh. You might want to make sure you've got nice cotton pajamas, for example, so you're really comfortable in bed. I also think, you know, eye mask. I have no problem with putting an eye mask on and earplugs.
But, you know, each to their own, right?
Each to their own. Even if, and earplugs, I mean, I always sleep with just one in, the one that's not on the pillow. You know, these are the kind of things that you can do just to try and block out the light, block out the noise, make your experience much more comfortable. And just not so scary. So yeah, just think about your sleep hygiene rituals that you've been doing. And are there any of those that you can take with you to your hospital bed? So, you know, those techniques to help you relax, breathing techniques that you might have learned, or apps to help you meditate, that kind of stuff. Just take it all with you and don't forget that it's there. A lot of people will go in and not think twice about this stuff, and it sounds really obvious when I'm saying it, but just be mindful of it to make your stay more bearable.
And the other thing, the tip that I would also give, having worked in the healthcare system, is to ask the nurses to group your cares together. So, you know, if they need to do something in the middle of the night and then they're going to wait you half an hour later for your observations, tell them that you can wait half an hour and group them together, because sleep for me is really important to my mental health at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing is lots and lots of people diagnosed with cancer are coping with side effects of medications.
Yeah.
From chemo side effects, steroids. And one of the key ones is lots of women are going through early onset of menopause.
Yep.
So I'm, you know, divulging my life at the moment, but in saying that I'm going through night sweats, extreme night sweats at the moment.
Yeah, and not pleasant.
They're really unpleasant. And what can you do to help that, Rob?
So, well, there's a couple of things. So let's think about diet on a basic level. There's some things in your diet. So drinking too much, spicy food, those kind of things might encourage night sweats. Obviously, if you're a smoker, then just stop smoking. Smokers are more likely to get night sweats. On another level, think about what you can do to manage the situation in bed, as opposed to trying to stop the sweats, which you probably are not going. You might, more than likely, you're not going to be able to do. Think about how you can manage it. So don't go to bed naked. make sure that you've got nice, crispy cotton pajamas on, because if you're naked, you're just going to stick to the sheets and it's horrible. If you've got pajamas on, the sweat is taken off your body, so it's just a bit more cooling. This is a bit weird, but in the summer when it's really hot, I sometimes put my pajamas, wrap them in a plastic bag and put them in the freezer. And then when I put them on, they're really cool and fresh. I know it sounds weird, but try it, honestly. If you're,
I've got my
very
chicken
hot,
and I've got my pajamas in my freezer. Okay.
Yeah, you're going to be thinking, God, Rob's lost the plot a little bit here. Keep your windows open. Make sure you do things like, make sure you don't, I love pets, but if you get night sweats and you're hot, don't keep them on the bed, because it's like a little hot water bottle. Silk pillowcases. Not only do they help give you beautiful skin, but
You're modelling it, Rob.
Yeah. But silk is actually very cooling. It stays cool. So that might be an option. I've also seen these pillows, like IKEA one that's got a gel top that stays cool. And I think that's a really good idea as well, if you're trying to stay cool. The type of bedding that you use, try and use good quality cotton bedding, because that will really help to keep you feeling cooler. And if you use a very thick duvet, this sounds really stupid, doesn't it? But maybe use a lighter duvet, just or a sheet, just so it's not
or something ridiculous. Yeah.
So you're there sweating away. And
I mean, totally. Got night sweats on top of that. So yes.
Yeah.
So okay, so that's night sweats. And what about in terms of the gut? So, unfortunately with chemo, it can cause anything from constipation to diarrhea and nausea.
Yeah.
What ways can you help, which will be keeping you awake, right?
Yeah, they will keep you awake. I mean, I think it's maybe... So there could be, the first thing that you could try is the timing of a medication. If your medication makes you feel quite nauseous shortly after taking, and you take it at night, I don't know how medication goes, but I know when I've worked in other in places, care homes and things like that, where we give medication to people and we try and time it so that the side effects are less when you're trying to go to bed, if you see what I mean. So timing, see what foods maybe exacerbate your gut issues. So if you are struggling with diarrhea or constipation, there may be some foods that you eat that make this worse. So you might want to just think about just keeping an eye on that. Food and mood diarrhea or something, just to monitor the foods that you're eating. Yeah. Definitely think about eating some lighter foods. Don't just go to bed really hungry, even if you're feeling quite nauseous. A dry bit of toast or a banana, anything, just so you don't feel hungry on top of it, because it makes nausea feel worse if you actually feel hungry as well. Other things that could exacerbate, maybe think about foods, if foods cause indigestion, as well as things like heartburn or reflux, on top of feeling nauseous or on top of having issues with your gut. It's just not going to be very pleasant. So find out which foods they are. So keep your food really plain. Don't eat lots of fatty foods, because they sit in the stomach for much longer, creating a lot of stomach acid. So, eat light, eat lean. Nausea, you could try something like ginger tea. I make a nice lemon tea with powdered ginger, which is really spicy, and that can be quite settling on your tummy. If you've got bloating on top of all of this from constipation, can leave you quite bloated, you could think about fennel or mint tea to help ease that.
I love a fennel tea. Yeah,
it's really good, isn't it? And it really works, actually. So
we're having all this tea, Rob, at night. So what about our bladders?
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
What about our bladders?
Yeah, so if you are having issues with your bladder and you need to pee quite a lot, then obviously you need to work out a fluid strategy that's going to work for you. So that might mean making sure you don't drink anything an hour or two before bed. If that's possible, you might feel really dehydrated. Don't deliberately make yourself really dehydrated, but maybe, try and drink as little or as you can, because that's the only advice really for this. I don't know medically if you've got anything to add to that, but I think it's just about working out your fluid strategy.
I think it's not to suffer in silence, guys. I think it's to go and talk to your GP and your clinical nurse specialist, to be able to talk to them about, can I change my medication? This medication is causing this. Is there another option? If my nausea medication isn't working, is there another option? You be empowered enough to go and have the conversations with your health team that they can adapt medications, they can change doses, they can change it all. So even if you need to keep having them, to make sure that, you know, each one of us as individual, we respond to medications differently. So having the right conversations with your health team. Okay, Rob, so we've been diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
We've gone into hospital. We're now post-treatment.
Yeah.
And we're worrying about it coming back. We no longer have a problem. We're struggling with chronic fatigue, so we're absolutely exhausted. So what can you do? Are naps our friend?
Yeah, they are your friend. I'm saying here, go to bed, you know, try and get that set time of sleep. But that really might not work for you as an individual. You might find that there are certain times of night where, you know, you might be experiencing pain. There might be times in the day where you're so tired that you just need to nap. So, you know, maybe you can break your sleep up. So you sleep a little less at night, but you fill your day with more naps.
Mm-hmm.
You can always get your sleep back on track when you're well, doing that 7-8 hours thing. But you just work out what works for you. And like I said earlier, I say 30 minutes max for a nap to stop you going into deep sleep, but it might just be that you have a longer sleep in the day if you really haven't slept late at night. Do you see what I mean? I just think there's no rhyme or rhythm to it here, or rules. I think you've just got to listen to your body and work out what works for you.
Can you sleep in 30-minute cycles? So if you're not sleeping a lot of night, could you have a 90-minute nap in the day if that's a 30-minute?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the guy that did this whole cycles thing was a guy called Nick Littlehales, and he said, work out how many cycles you need across the night in 90 minutes. So I think 7 hours sleep. My maths isn't great. It's about 5 cycles. Mm-hmm. So he said that for every cycle you miss, a 30-minute nap is enough to make up for that sleep loss.
Okay.
Which is quite interesting. But I mean, I just think it's another case altogether if you're experiencing, especially if you're experiencing sort of chronic fatigue and treatment. Yeah. And if you throw pain into the mix as well, you know, you have to think about how you can manage that and the best time for you to get as much sleep as you possibly can, peaceful sleep.
Now, I've got a question in terms of, we've talked about complementary therapies. What about, you know, the idea of a lovely bubble bath, boiling hot bubble bath? Sounds lovely. What do you think, Maisie? Yeah? Okay, but I get boiling hot from a bubble bath, and then, like, take
with your night sweats, you don't want to be in that hot bath.
No, I don't.
Tell you.
That's true, right? So then I've overheated my body.
Well, the circadian rhythm is governed by temperature and light. So it's fine to have a hot bath, but it's the cooling down process that makes you tired then, ready for bed. So don't have a hot bath and jump straight into bed. Give it an hour or so.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is all part of working out that sleep ritual, the things you do at night to help you to sleep. So, right, I have my dinner at this time of day. I make sure I eat the right kind of foods. I have a hot bath here, then I sit with a book, I do my meditation, you know, whatever it is, I spray my room with lovely smells. Because actually it's so relaxing having a bath, and you can use a lot of the sort of aromatherapy smells as well to help relax you. You know, there's not a lot of evidence for them, but they do have an effect on your olfactory system. Yeah, they do help to make you feel more relaxed. So yeah, do it. Just don't jump straight into bed. Just give it a little bit of time.
Okay. That's very useful. And what about the CBD oils that everyone is talking about? Lots of people in cancer world are saying they're using them. Is there any evidence?
So the evidence isn't, there's loads of research going on CBD. And obviously the CBD that you get from supplement companies doesn't contain the THC, which is should we call it the trippy bit?
Yeah, trippy bit. Yeah.
The trippy bit. So I don't know how effective they are. There is research, a lot of, you know, listening to what people say, a lot of people find a benefit. They find it helps with anxiety, which helps them to sleep better. Some people say it helps them to sleep. I wouldn't say there is strong enough research for me to say that they definitely do that. You know, it's a different story if you've got medicinal cannabis drops, you know, medical style cannabis, or I don't think we can get that here in the UK, but they obviously contain THC, which is a much stronger product, but you won't get that.
So there's not much research, but anecdotally we're hearing quite a lot that people are.
Yeah, I think it's quite. I think it's a fairly safe product to use, and you don't take much of it. So if you want to try it, but I would always recommend, if you're thinking about taking a supplement, to just check with your specialist first. It doesn't matter what supplement it is. You know, especially if you're sick and your immune system's very low, you might want to think twice about taking any sort of supplements. So yeah, just check with somebody first.
Okay. We're saying 7 to 8 hours sleep.
Yeah.
Can that be from 2 till 9?
Yeah, if you're an owl, that might be it. So we're owls or larks. It's built into us. It's part of our genetic makeup.
No.
Not really. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a morning person. So I will go to bed really early, like 9 o'clock.
Whoa,
and I'll be up at, I know, and I'm up at 4 or 5, but that just works for me. And I love it. But obviously this time of night, I'm literally like, whereas a lot of people will go to bed at 1 and wake up at 9, or even go to bed at 2 and wake up at 10. I think this is really interesting because it's very reflective of work schedules as well. So if you are at work, it might be, and because we all work at home now, most of us, you might be able to set your time schedule a bit better. So if you are a night person, you literally cannot go to sleep until 2 o'clock because you're wide awake. Then maybe think about starting your day a bit later so that you're not forced to have a smaller amount of sleep.
Yeah.
And then you just stay on and work a little bit later in the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really funny that, you know, with forcing, it happens a lot with school kids actually, because a lot of them get these circadian disorders where it's very extreme owls. So they're getting the right amount of sleep, but they cannot get up, but they're being forced to get up to go to school. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah, there's an argument about changing times and stuff of the day to help, and actually it'll make you feel less fatigued across the day. So if you're having to work and you've got suffering with fatigue, just get it all to work for you, your circadian rhythm, when you start your work, when you finish work, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, that's really interesting for people with our community, because actually struggling with work plus cancer related fatigue means that working out your circadian rhythm and what works for you in terms of whether you're a night owl or a morning lark, is that right?
Yes, that would be right. There are actually a few other definitions thrown in between that people have done, which are quite interesting, like dolphins and bears.
What makes you a dolphin?
Do you know what? I wish you didn't say that because I can't remember.
We'll discuss that another time. I'll find out. Now, I've got a really, I think a quick fire round might be quite interesting, Rob, and then I'm going to ask you a few things about diet and etc. Okay. Can you sleep too much?
Yes.
How do you know when you have slept enough?
Don't feel tired?
How do you know that how do you know that you've slept enough?
You would feel refreshed. You would be able to, all those things said earlier, your concentration's on point, you've got your attention's on point, you've got insight, learning, you're able to memorize stuff. You just know, you're just on your game. If you know what I mean. You know when you've had enough sleep. You feel fully refreshed. Okay.
Is there the best position to sleep?
It depends what the issue is. So if you're suffering with sleep apnea, then you're better off sleeping on your side, obviously. If you suffer with heartburn, for example, you're better off sleeping on your left-hand side because that gravity and reflux, sleeping on your left draws it back down. If you're suffering with a bad back, you might have to sleep on your back. It all depends on you and what you're struggling with.
Weird sleep. What's the weird, like there's lots of sleep disorders out there, and there's some weird stuff going on. If you're having really weird sleep, so I had weird sleep this lockdown. I ended up being diagnosed with a very complicated sleep disorder. How do you know when it's right to go and get help with sleep?
It's tricky because you're asleep, so you might not know unless you've got another half next to you. But if you're living on your own, then you wouldn't really know. So I think you listen to the signs. So first of all, if you're waking up exhausted all the time, even though you've had a lot of sleep, but you're still waking up really tired, and like I said, look out for some of those symptoms I said earlier, the tension, the concentration. Then maybe get some help. It could be that you've got a very disruptive sleep. It could be that you are spending a lot of time in one certain stage of the sleep cycle, like lots of REM sleep that's making your brain go crazy. Could be sleepwalking. That's a bit weird. So yeah, just go and get help. But just find the right person to speak to. Go and see somebody that specialises in sleep, maybe opposed to your GP, because they might be better for you, or psychologist that deals with sleep, that kind of thing.
I think that's really interesting to move on to the point of sleeping tablets.
Yeah, so I've taken them in the past, and they're horrible. They just make you feel horrible when you wake up. Doctors are not keen to prescribe them these days. They'd rather you took alternative options. You'll never get more than, I think it's 1 or 2 weeks course, because they're really highly addictive. I think if you're totally at a loss, then your doctor might prescribe them. There are over-the-counter medications that some people find quite useful. These are either contain, like we said earlier, valerian, lemon balm, those kind of herbs, or they'll contain antihistamines that make you drowsy. You can't rely on antihistamines for very long because your body gets used to them, and I don't think they're the best option. And I think there are other ways of dealing with. I said CBT earlier, so there's a few options there.
So cognitive behavioural therapy.
Cognitive behavioural therapy. So there's a few things I said earlier about sort of breaking that mental gap between sleep, and there are a few other strategies like restricting your sleep and then building your sleep back up again, and all sorts of stuff that they can do.
So sleep restriction's really interesting. That's when someone's sleeping too long.
Yeah, it could be when they're sleeping too long, and you just need to sort of, which actually is it was still not a great option. So it's about cutting down on the sleep and then gradually building it back up, just to figure out exactly where the balance is for you. Yeah.
And another quick fire round. What foods can help you when you can't sleep?
Interesting. So obviously a balanced diet overall is the best thing to try and to achieve. That way you'll be gleaning some nice nutrients that are involved in making melatonin in the brain, like magnesium, calcium, B6. Tryptophan is an interesting one. So tryptophan is an amino acid found in the body, and that goes into the brain to make serotonin, which is then converted into melatonin, which is a sleep hormone. So it's a very small amino acid, and it's not very abundant in the body. So if you team your tryptophan food, that's meat, poultry, soya, those kind of dishes, the insulin that you get when you eat those foods draws all those other amino acids away, so tryptophan can make it up into the brain more freely. So this is actually the reason why a lot of women crave carbs during their monthly cycle, is because they have low serotonin, and the carbs help with the uptake of tryptophan. On a total other
that's tangent. Really useful to know, isn't it, girls? I mean, in terms
so tryptophan is a really good one, and actually there's old wives' tale, have warm milk with honey. It's kind of rooted in that, because the milk's a source of tryptophan, the honey's a carb, so it helps with the uptake.
What about bananas? My mum
bananas are a source of tryptophan. It might be that you some people eat quite early and they prefer to have a snack at night. A lot of people eat little and often, and actually if you're struggling with your appetite and cancer, that might be the way that you choose to eat, is little and often, rather than overfacing yourself with food to try and get your appetite back. So it might be that you have a late night snack of a small thing of porridge with chopped banana, a bit of honey. I'm not a fan I don't like sloppy food, so I'm not a fan. But I think the most important thing is to keep your diet as healthy and balanced as possible. Alcohol doesn't help you to sleep. It really doesn't. It really disrupts your sleep. Caffeine isn't great either for sleep.
Friends of mine can definitely sleep on 2 espressos, and I don't understand it. You go out for a meal with them and they will have 2 espressos, and I'll be
off my choppers. There's no way. I mean, we do have a specific gene that determines how quickly we break down caffeine.
There we go. We're learning so much.
Yeah, it's a special gene, and it's it's not like, it doesn't make you break it down really fast or really slow. Most people sit in the middle, but it is defined in your genes how quickly you can break it down. So I mean, I avoid caffeine after sort of 11 o'clock. And I love coffee, but for me, I'd rather enjoy that first coffee of the day. Is the best coffee ever. The one at 3 o'clock that you have because you think you want it is grubby. It doesn't taste good. You feel a bit gammy. So I think just avoid caffeine if you're struggling to sleep after sort of midday.
So the other thing is lots of people are coping with cancer-related fatigue. We haven't talked about exercise. And obviously we talked about food. If anyone has any problems with food, look at the Food and Cancer booklet on our website, and you can order it yourselves, and you should get a copy in your pack. Join us. But also exercise. So can you exercise too late at night?
Yeah, I think this is quite an important point. So you're raising your body temperature, and the whole idea of being able to sleep is the body temperature drops, which triggers sleep. This is all part of your circadian rhythm, one of the things that happens. So I think it doesn't affect loads of people, because the flip side is you exercise and you get really tired, and that might help you to sleep. So I think this is a bit of trial and error. Either way, exercise is good. Whatever time of day you do, it's good for your mental health. It's
not a good thing to exercise before they go to bed.
If you're struggling with sleep, it might be, if you're struggling with sleep, then it's maybe something you want to think about changing. Also, if you're going to have a boiling hot shower after you've exercised and then jump straight into bed, we said earlier about keeping your body temperature down. Your body temperature stays quite raised after very intense exercise. So maybe you think about the type of exercise you do. So instead of doing a HIIT class, I'd never do a HIIT class. Maybe think about doing something like yoga or Pilates. I do hot yoga, which probably isn't the best option if you're struggling to sleep, but there are lots of different ways. And actually, there's a lot. Yoga's a really good one for both your body and your mind. So that, I think that's a good option. Okay,
another question for you, which is cold showers. So I have a cold shower at the end of my shower, and I love it. I feel like the world is a better place. My mother has a cold bath.
My mum used to have cold baths.
What about a cold shower to bring down your temperature before you go to bed?
Yeah, that would work. It's good for your circulation as well. A cold shower.
Can I just say Maisie's face said it all just then?
I kind of think it's something you would want to do in the morning, though, to sort of wake you up, as opposed to when you're trying to go to, it could just be a bit too much of a jolt. And I think I'd want to have, at night, I'd want things to be a little bit calmer, maybe.
Now, one of the things that I think is something that a lot of people struggle with is kind of getting into this kind of cycle of, I can't sleep, I'm going to worry about I can't sleep, I'm going to not sleep, I can't sleep because I'm worrying about not sleeping. So I've been able to say the line from Faithless, I can't get no sleep.
Love that song.
You're all too young. They're all too young, Rob.
I know, it's just not fair, is it?
So how do you get out of that vicious cycle?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I don't know, actually. I think this is about just getting your sleep back on track. I think, don't lie in bed stressing, because it's self-perpetuating. So you're looking at the clock and you're like, God, it's 4 o'clock and I've got to get up at 9. And instead of stressing out, it's not going to do you any favours. Get out of bed, find a way to relax. And then even if you only get back to bed for a couple of hours, that's better than having lay there for 4 more hours before you get up, with your brain racing. And also things, I don't know about you, but when I'm up at night, things seem so much worse, right? Everything is like the worst thing in the world. But when you get up then, you think about that problem again, you just think, God, this really isn't a big a deal. There's a way that I can fix this. So, again, get your book out, write down the issues that are going on, and get up, try and find a way to relax, and then get yourself back to bed for a couple of hours.
Should you turn on your bright light? Should you start reading?
Try and keep the lights really low. So blue light prevents the release of melatonin. And to be honest with you, the melatonin thing is only really an issue at the start to get you to sleep. Melatonin doesn't really keep you asleep across the night. I think it's more of a trigger for sleep. But I just think just keep everything really low and calm, and just think of a baby's room, right? It's all everybody nests their babies, don't they? They put them to bed at the same time every day. They've got a lovely sleep ritual. They give them a warm bath. They feed them. They swaddle them. It's like we kind of forget how to do all of this as we get older, but we're trained to do it as kids.
That's really interesting, isn't it? We kind of forget all those self-care things that we give other people when we're little.
Totally. I've got a gravity blanket, actually. Never heard of those?
Yes, apparently that's really good for anxiety.
Yeah, it's a bit weird because it's quite heavy, actually. So you put it on.
It's a weighted blanket, guys.
A weighted blanket, and it does kind of relax you a bit. I tried to sleep in it once, but I got so claustrophobic because I couldn't actually move with it on. Yeah, so... But they're quite a nice option just before you go to bed, or if you wake up at night, just to put it on yourself. It's really nice. I found it quite useful.
Lots of my friends' children who have severe anxiety, which I can't bear, I'm saying, you know, children with anxiety, they all use weighted blankets and they all sleep with them, and it's really, really helped them. So it's the idea of being contained, isn't it? It's the idea of... Yeah,
it is. And it's like having a hug, and there is research to suggest that it does help to produce serotonin and those sort of nice feel-good relaxing hormones. So might be an option. They're quite expensive, but I think there's lots of varieties out there to buy and try. So
it's all about behaviour, environment, and diet. So it's thinking about all of those. So thinking about what you can change, guys. Who you need to talk to if you need help with this, what you can do to change stuff, and what someone can do for you. And also, I think the other thing is recognizing that you matter, and that you need to look after yourselves and work out what works for you. I think one of the things we say is, time and time again, is there's one size does not fit all. And I think it's working out what you need to be able to sleep well, right?
Yeah. And oh, look, my light just went off. And also, don't, ask for help. Don't suffer in silence. If there's something, there's always something that somebody might be able to help you with. Even if it's a foot rub to help you relax from somebody in your family or whatever it is, there's get everybody involved to help.
And the other thing we do, obviously, anything in terms of herbal things, you need to talk to your cancer teams about that, just to make sure it doesn't interact.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to the pharmacy about whether it interacts with any of the medications that you're on. Melatonin is something you could talk to your team about, because how does that work, Rob?
Yeah, melatonin is quite interesting, and you can get it prescribed, and it sort of helps you to get to sleep. I've tried it in the past, and it's been quite good. Don't be tempted to buy these melatonin gummies that you can get from the States, because I'm not entirely sure what's in them, and I just think you're better off if you're really struggling. Go see your GP, talk them through, and it's about getting to sleep. I'm not sure how well it keeps you asleep, but it definitely might help you to nod off. I think one of the biggest issues for people, for me especially, is staying asleep. I can go to bed at 9, wake up at 11, and then it's game over. So but these, if you struggle getting to sleep, then they might be quite useful.
Thank you very much, Rob. Is there any questions? Are there any questions from anyone? Would anyone like to ask one, or you can put it in the chat? Is there anything we haven't covered that you're surprised that we haven't covered?
Silence.
Is there a thumbs up that you feel this has been helpful? I'd be interested to know, I'm going to put some questions up. How have you slept in the last week? Sorry, Rob, can you see me still?
Yeah, no, it's okay. I've got it.
If all of you want... Okay. Got two on... Oh. Are
we all sleeping like babies?
No, we're not.
Ah, okay.
We're a few bad nights this week. That's 88%, and 13% of I've had one bad night's sleep a week. Has everyone answered? Ah, interesting. Like a baby, nothing wakes me. I have a problem.
Imagine sleeping like a baby, nothing waking you.
I mean, babies do wake up, right?
Huh? I never wake up.
It can be a pain in the butt when it comes to sleep. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. And I think this has been so helpful in terms of not only thinking about sleep in general, in terms of what it is, why we need it, but also in terms of cancer and how all of that can be impacts our sleep and can impact your sleep, and what you can do to try and help that. We've got one question. Oh, thanks, Maisie. Really great info, really helpful. Fantastic.
Cheers, Maisie.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rob. It's been always a delight.
Always a pleasure.
I thought we could stay on for a chat. Just wanted to tell you what went on. Is there any other questions? It's lovely to see you all. Great chat. Very interesting. Thank you both. Brilliant. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Pleasure. Wonderful to see you all. I hope you're all doing okay. And the light is coming at the end of this tunnel. It's getting there. And thinking of you all, because I can't imagine what this has been like for you guys. So just know, in terms of what we've got coming up, we've got the Renew program. If none of you know, if you know about that, it's our 8-week exercise program, group sessions, helping you to get active with other people who get it. We've got our if you've done the Renew program, we've got our top-up classes coming up, which are fortnightly, that help you keep active. We've got Pilates classes fortnightly. We've also got, if you've only just joined the network, we've got our Welcome to Trekstock. If you've got loved ones who you feel that would like to understand how to support you better, we've got our What I Wish I'd Known for loved ones. And we've also got, what else have we got? We've got lots of resources on our website that are covering topics from mental health support to sex and relationships to fertility, to LGBTQ, to why exercise is important, how you overcome barriers. And we also have our Headspace app, which is available for you when you subscribe to Trekstock. And if you want it again and it's run out, please get in touch with Brani at trekstock.com. That's really lovely. Thank you very much for this comment. It says, Robert says, so nice to get a glimpse of the cancer aspect into the sleep matters.
Great.
Someone says, been using Headspace every night. It's been a great help. So that's the meditation. Fantastic.
Brilliant.